my captors had found, unfortunately, and this is horrific, but they found the best way to control people around them was by saying God commanded them to do it, by twisting and manipulating something that should be really beautiful and uplifting into something ugly. And so everything they did to me, they would do in the name of God. And I knew that was wrong because I'd always been raised, you know a person by their deeds. You know they're a good person if they're doing good things.
There it is.
And they were always hurting me, so I knew they were bad people.
I aim to make emotional healing a global norm. Through cultivating candid discussions about love.
My parents got married and divorced to each other 3 times. Or you can look at it as they kept trying. In the end of my father's life, that's what he told me.
I aspire to mend marriages.
I'm intentional about loving her because now I understand that, I was able to be free and loving me, then I could love her.
Reignite hope for singles seeking future relationships.
How can you glory in being single and want a companion at the same time? How can you not? You're only going to be as successful as a wife as you were a single.
And inspire men to lead their homes in accordance with biblical principles.
When I made my vows, I told God that I was going to take care of this gift. This is my gift.
Oh, God.
And I was obligated to see after him and him alone.
Join me on this journey where these heartfelt and vulnerable conversations form the patchwork for the quilt that will envelop my future wifey.
I have accepted their opinions without criticism, and the theme is that I'm happy, and I want to be happy in the future.
I'm Laterisar Whitfield. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. Live in Las Vegas at the Super Bowl. I got my homie. I know y'all saw this episode with my homie Tim Brown and his lovely wife Sharice. But listen, for those that don't know who the legendary Tim Brown is, he is an NFL Hall of Famer and former player of the Oakland Raiders in Los Angeles from 1988 to 2003, correct?
That's right.
Now today, just days before the Super Bowl, which is the new home of the Raiders, he is launching the inaugural Tim and Sharice Brown Celebrity Golf Invitational. The event, which Tim is hosting alongside his wife, philanthropist Sharice Brown, will bring together sports, legends, community, luminaries, and philanthropic powerhouses to join together and take a stand against child exploitations. So listen, Tim, why was this important for you? Why was it important for you to team up with Elizabeth Smart for this event?
Well, first of all, when I saw her at a golf tournament a couple of years ago, her story is probably one of the more heart-wrenching stories you ever hear. Thankfully, she was alive, so that was the very good news about it. But to hear about what she went through and all that, the details was really, hard to even understand how somebody could survive that from a mental standpoint. But here she was standing on the tee box, looking as great as ever, knowing that she's married and have a couple kids herself now. People think that she may be totally over the deal, but obviously there are lasting effects of what happened to her. So, so we interacted, and her name wasn't on the event, so I was shocked to see her there. So when I asked her why she did, she said, well, this is my foundation. I was like, well, I think if you put your name on something, people will come, from around the country to help you out. And then I asked her about, if she knew what the #1 sex trafficking weekend was, and she said she didn't know. And I told her it was NFL, the Super Bowl weekend. And so from that, I said, you probably should think about, partnering with the NFL on something, And so a couple of weeks later, they called and said, well, she'll do something, but only if you're involved, So, and that's how we got here. But, what ended up happening was because of what Sharice, and that story, went through, she sort of opened a door for us that we hadn't thought about it. That is, what happened to Sharice is probably more prevalent than what happened to her. And our minds were like blown over that. And it was like, wow. So that's how Sharice became such an integral part of this. And, we just wanted to get the word out, just expose, just put the light on it, whatever you could possibly do to let people know what's going on.
Something interesting, the conversation, the episode that I had with you inspired me in April. April is Sexual Awareness Month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I decided to do was create a free program to help educate men on how to handle the hearts of a woman that have dealt with sexual assault. They say 1 in 5, and sometimes that's debatable, and they say 1 in 3 women have experienced sexual assault of some sort. But talking to you and hearing how you help nurture and help bring healing to your wife is what inspired me to do that. Why is it important for you to bring sports legends and community luminaries and philanthropic powerhouses to join together to take a stand against child exploitation?
Well,
why was that important?
Yeah, brother, nothing can be done without money.
Right.
So, and these guys can help bring people in, that can help us raise the funds that we need to go out and fight this thing, so it's never going to be enough money, right? You can never get enough, but any little bit that you can raise can help. I think you may have heard today that one of the things that the Maloo Foundation is doing is they're teaching kids, self-defense. Because you never know. You look at Elizabeth, she's not a small girl.
Right.
She's a pretty stout woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she's saying that even at when the time that she was a tall girl. And maybe if she would have known something, maybe there was something that she could have done early on.
Right.
But again, we're happy that her situation turned out as great as it did. But we know that a lot of those situations don't turn out that well. So, my sister years ago, when she was doing some police work, detective work, or whatever it was, one of the things they taught her was, don't ever go with your attacker. Because if they're gonna shoot you, they're going to shoot you right there, or they're going to shoot, what I mean? But fight for your life right there, that moment, because that may be your only chance, So I think what the Maloo Foundation is doing is incredible, and what obviously Elizabeth is doing is incredible also.
Your organization presented the Elizabeth Smart Foundation with a check of $25,000. I love it when people put their money where their mouth is. And even when you begin to give it to her, you say, hey, I don't want y'all trying to say like, well, this ain't enough. Or, you could have done more. And I love what you said as a disclaimer. But any money, and that's why I always want to make sure that people, if you're donating $5, $20, $30, you're actually making an investment and a difference of saying that, listen, I value what you are doing.
Yeah.
So why was that important? And why did you give that disclaimer about, presenting somebody with a $25,000 check? That's some serious money.
Well, we're around black folks, man. We're around our people. You know how our people are. They walk away. You believe it was only 25? They got a little bit. You know how people are, man.
100%.
So a lot of stuff had to be paid for. A lot of stuff had to be, done. All this wasn't free. You know what I mean?
100%.
So anyway, I was really trying to be funny, but at the same time, I wanted to stamp that thing in the bud, because somebody gonna be saying it, so
that's how they did.
But anyway, we'll do better. We'll be able to get more. We had some people who say, oh, we didn't know, and we called them people, you forget. It's like, dang, how did I forget about them? But our goal next year is to be at 100,000.
Good.
And the bill from there.
You made a comment, and I want to touch on it. You said Super Bowl being the highest week for sex trafficking, and people in the NFL don't want to talk about it.
Don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
Talk about it here on Dear Future Wifey Podcast. Why do you think that is the most impactful week for those statistics to be at an all-time high?
Well, you got people coming from all around the country, man. Vegas is a high number place anyway, because it's Vegas, right?
Right.
But you bring in the Super Bowl. They're saying that over 300,000 people are coming in town, for this event. And the place only sits 65,000 or whatever, but you got 300,000 people coming in. And unfortunately, it only takes 1,000 people, 500 people, 100 people, you get 100 girls here who have been sex trafficked. That's a lot. You know what I mean? And it may not be a big number in that 300,000, but when you think about the lives of these girls, last year, I won't say the name of the hotel, very prominent hotel, the number one hotel for the NFL last year. I'm standing outside about 7:30 in the morning, waiting to go play golf. A group of 7 or 8 girls come out. They're dressed like it's 9 o'clock at night, not 7:30 in the morning. And the thing that really caught my eye was none of the girls had purses or cell phone. And they were with an older
That's
black
good.
woman.
See, that's good. I want to know, how can we identify? And you just hit the nail on the head. When would you ever see a woman walking around without a purse or cell phone?
With a purse or a cell phone?
Yeah.
And these looked like younger, they didn't look like they were teenagers, but they looked like they were younger.
Young 20s.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it was just like, wait a minute, what am I watching here? What am I seeing? And, just like that, they're gone. They're in the car, they're in a big SUV, and they're gone. You know what I mean? And it happens just that quick. That was coming out of the NFL #1 hotel, on a Tuesday morning or whatever it was. So, look, I mean, they're getting to the point now where they're not even trying to hide it.
At all.
They're not waiting till the cover at night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and until somebody really does something about it, then, it's going to keep growing. And I think we've got to get the NFL to at least turn on the light to try and, what'd you say? We all grew up, brother, with little bugs.
Yeah.
We turn them lights on the bugs.
They
I'm
start
scared. That's what we want to have happen here.
So, Tim Brown, what can we do to help you do a better job at connecting? Actually, to even support your endeavors. What can we do to help this event and other events that you decide to do in the future?
Yeah, I think I got hotrodconnect.com, at gmail.com, I think it is. But I'll get you that correct information. But I think that's, if you want more information, if you want to know about how to donate or whatever, because this is going to be a year-to-year thing for us. And it's going to be all year. It's not just going to be Super Bowl week.
Good.
We're going to be doing programs and doing things, getting involved as much as we possibly can around Dallas and around the country. I do so much flying around the country that I could literally, be in multiple cities, talking about this. So I just think it's something that has to be talked about more. It has to be on the NFL's radar. It has to be on the people that really matter. Elizabeth can talk until she's blue in the face. So, it'd take a lot longer for me to do that till I get blue in the face. we can, but we need those powers that be, man, to really step up and make this thing happen.
Good. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Anytime for you, brother. You know that.
Man,
Absolutely.
I love you. I
Yes,
love how you love your wife, man. It's inspiring, and just keep doing what you're doing, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Really
Thank
do.
you, King.
Thank
Appreciate you.
All right.
Appreciate you. Now we have the woman of the hour about to come up. Man, listen, enlightening statistics, enlightening. I love what Tim Brown is doing. Tim and Sharice Brown are doing. Have a seat, Queen. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Let's see if we get this microphone. Is it where you need? All right.
Yep.
All right, good. Hi. So is this face recognizable to y'all? I know it was everywhere. You saw this. And this was over 20 years ago. When you look back at that, now, for some of you that don't know Elizabeth Smart's story, it was one of the most followed child abduction cases of our time. She was abducted from her home at the age of 14 on June the 5th, 2002. And for 9 months, her captors controlled her by threatening to kill her and her family if she tried to escape. She was rescued on March the 12th, 2003, when an observant and courageous bystander took action by alerting the police. As a result of her experience, Elizabeth started the Elizabeth Smart Foundation to bring hope and end victimization and exploitation of sexual assault through education, healing, and advocacy. Through their work, they continue to inspire hope for families, peace for victims, and empowerment for all. She also has a podcast. So, I'm a podcaster, so I love what she's doing. She has an amazing podcast called Smart Talks. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey Podcast, my new homie, Elizabeth Smart. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Now, your story was one of the most followed child abduction cases of our time. For those in our audience who aren't familiar, just please share a little bit about your experience.
Sure, yeah. So I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. I never thought anything bad could ever happen to me. I mean, I was pretty nondescript. I was a pretty obedient child.
Yeah.
I didn't ruffle feathers. I just, I did what my parents told me. I did what my teachers told me. And I didn't think that, I thought because I followed the rules, nothing would ever happen to me. It was right before I was going to graduate from junior high, the night before I was about to graduate. And I went to bed. I shared a bed with my little sister. and I went to sleep. And the next thing I remember was waking up to a knife being pressed against my neck and a man standing above me telling me to get up and to go with him. And in that moment, I didn't feel like I had a choice. I didn't feel like there was anything else I could do. I mean, of all the safety education I was taught, nobody told me what I should do if someone broke into my house in the middle of the night and kidnapped me. So I went with him. And then for the next 9 months, I was raped every day, multiple times. I was chained up. I was starved. Food and water was withheld from me. And eventually I was rescued during my captivity. My captors had taken me to Southern California because we wouldn't have survived a Northern Utah winter. And I convinced my captors that the best thing for us to do would be to come back to Utah. And it was on that journey back to Utah. We were actually in Utah. We were actually in Salt Lake City. The first day we were back, when these bystanders who were paying attention saw us and called the police, that ultimately led to my rescue.
So how did you convince them to return back to Utah? As a young girl, how did you control that conversation?
Well, my captors had found, unfortunately, and this is horrific, but they found the best way to control people around them was by saying God commanded them to do it, by twisting and manipulating something that should be really beautiful and uplifting into something ugly. And so everything they did to me, they would do in the name of God. And I knew that was wrong because I'd always been raised, a person by their deeds. They're a good person if they're doing good things.
There it is.
And they were always hurting me. So I knew they were bad people. But I had listened to them talk this way for 9 months. God commanded us to do this. God commanded us to do that. And I know that's wrong. Nobody needs to tell me that's wrong. I know that's wrong.
Absolutely.
But I thought if it can work for them, maybe it can work for me just one time. And so I remember praying. I remember just being like, please, please let this work. And turning to them and saying, I feel like God wants us to go back to Utah. I know God wouldn't speak to me because I am sinful and I am wicked and I have so much to learn, but I know he'd speak to you. I know he'd tell you if we're supposed to go back. And they ended up turning around and saying, I think she's right. I think we need to go back to Utah. And that's how we came back. So if there was ever a miracle in my captivity, that was it.
That is that's amazing. I never even knew that part of the story. And so when, take me back to the mindset that you had. Did you feel like God had failed you? Because like you said, you grew up in a place where you knew right from wrong. You knew the voice of God, and you knew that, I'll say the deeds of God, that God would never want somebody to abuse you like that. So how did you reconcile that in your mind to be going through that at such a young age, and then them demonizing the word of God and manipulating the word of God for their benefit? What was going on in your mind?
Well, growing up, I always believed that I was a child of God and that he's my heavenly Father and that he loves me and that I'm special to him, as we all are. And so I grew up believing that my entire life. I still believe that. But I also recognize that people have the freedom to make their own choices, and that's why we're here. That's why we're on earth, is to see what choices that we decide to make. Do we follow God or do we not? And so when I was kidnapped, it was apparent right from the beginning that these people were not following God. So it was always very easy for me to keep them separated from what they said, from what they actually were. And I guess for me, it was such a comfort to believe that there was an all-powerful, loving God that was watching over me, that was aware of me, than to think that I was truly completely alone.
Did you feel like God failed you during that time?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Now, this is powerful, Elizabeth. So you're saying in your worst situation, you still had hope that God was still protecting you?
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't know how it was going to end. I didn't know if I was going to die, but if I died, then I believed I'd go and join God.
Do you know how many people give up on God with just when they have their 80-year-old grandma that passed away, and they can't reconcile why she passed away, even in her old age, or may have died from dementia or anything like that. And they go, wow, I mean, God failed me. But here you are as a young girl being tormented daily and didn't lose your hope and faith in God.
I mean, all I can think of is how much darker a world this world would feel to me if I didn't believe in him. If I didn't believe in a higher power and a higher and ultimate goodness.
You don't preach to somebody. So the motto of your organization is bringing hope and ending the victimization and exploitation of sexual assault through education, healing, and advocacy. Tell us a little bit more about the work you're doing and the kind of impact you're seeing as a result of that work.
So we have a number of programs, one of which I'm so excited about that today, from the benefit of today, is going to work right here in Las Vegas, but is our Smart Defense program. It is a trauma-informed self-defense program, and it's a combination of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Krav Maga, and Muay Thai, and just frankly, whatever dirty street fighting there is.
Yeah.
But it's all trauma informed, because it's really easy to think, well, if I was in that situation, I'd yell. If I was in that situation, I'd fight back. I'd kick them. I'd scream. I'd bite. It's easy to be like the backseat driver and be like, I do this or I do that. But the truth is, you never really know what you're going to do until you are in that situation. And if you're not practicing, then those tools might not be readily available to you. And so our Smart Defense program, yes, we do teach physical moves, but we also recognize that we have our autonomical nervous system, which just naturally reacts whether we are consciously thinking about it or not, which most people have heard fight, flight, or freeze. There's actually a fourth one, which is appease, which many people confuse with Stockholm syndrome, which it's not, which is basically you're just in pure survival mode where you do whatever it takes to survive. That maybe people from the outside looking in don't understand why it looks like you're going along with whatever you're going along with. But on the inside, you're like, I am surviving. That's what I'm here for. Like, that's why I'm here. I'm just surviving. I'm doing whatever I have to survive. So we take these into, we talk about these and we acknowledge that you can go through Smart Defense and you can still freeze. But what we're trying to give you are options, are tools. If you remember, like if you practice, like, then yes, you might be able to use a strike. You might be able to, kick. You might remember how to get out of a chokehold. Like we want to give you as many tools as possible. So heaven forbid you ever find yourself in this situation, you are not left choiceless like I was the night that I had a knife held to my neck.
When you look back at that, have you ever, like, even in the training, have you reenacted that moment of it? Like, what would a woman do, or a young girl waking up with a knife to their neck? How could you be on the offense in that situation?
Yeah, of course. Of course I've thought about it. And the truth is I honestly don't know if I would have reacted differently if I had all the training then that I have now. But I also feel like I would have had choices. I would have had options. Maybe it would have worked, maybe it wouldn't have worked, but I would have had a choice. Whereas that night, I didn't feel like I had any choices.
Or even later, like even when you were with the captors, were you always tied up or bound, or did you have freedom to move?
The first 2 months I was always chained up. They did eventually unchain me. But it was during those first 2 months, they had times to put like mental chains around me, which I think speaks to so many victims of domestic abuse, where people are like, you have a car, you have a phone, like, why aren't you leaving?
Yes.
It's not because they don't want to. It's not because they like being hurt. It's because their perpetrators, they have mentally chained them up so that they can't leave.
Thank you for touching on that. Thank you, because a lot of times people start victimizing the victim and say, well, just like you said, you have the freedom to go to work. Why don't you tell somebody? Why don't you call the police? Why don't you alert the police? You can find someone that is in an abusive situation, can walk right by the police and never even notify them. But what you just touched on is so important, because the chains on one's minds.
Well, and having experienced both physical chains and mental chains, I will tell you that the mental chains are much stronger all day long than those physical chains are.
100%. 100%. You recently joined forces with the Maloo Foundation. That's what you're talking about, right? With the self-defense. Tell us about the work that you're doing. You basically touched on that, but what brought you to join forces with them?
I mean, I I want to see like numbers change. I want to see culture change. And I know I can't do that by myself. I need all the help that I can get.
Absolutely.
So when Maloof suggested us joining forces, I was like, absolutely. I'm like, I want to join forces with anyone who wants to make a difference in this world. I mean, I know one person can't do it alone. I'm so grateful for all the organizations out there in this cause because I know that of myself, I can't do it. I can't. I need everybody. We all need each other.
You mentioned the statistic, but I want you to say again when you said 95%. 95%. What is that statistic that you brought up?
95% of abuse could be prevented if we were more open, if we actively were teaching prevention education, if we were speaking about, yes, it is hard topic to talk about. It is hard. It is a hard message to address. And then you think about talking about it with your kids. I mean, I have 3 little kids myself. Like, it's hard for me. It's scary for me. And I'm in this day in and day out. But it is so important because if we're building trust with our kids, if we're talking about it openly, if we're teaching them that they have boundaries that they should expect other people to respect, and when those boundaries are crossed, they know who to come to. I mean, the average person, the average child has to tell it 5 separate people before they're believed if something happens. 5 different people. Like, that should not be our culture. As you know, an advocate, and as I've spoken for like the last 20 years around the country, I have had so many countless people approach me and say the same thing happened to me, but I've never told anyone, or I tried to tell and I wasn't believed, which started our other initiative, which is our We Believe You initiative, which is about believing survivors instead of questioning them. It's about supporting them. It's about believing them. So it's about providing a safe place for survivors to realize that they are not alone.
Yes.
But it's also about educating communities. How we respond has a huge impact on survivors and whether they go on to report it, whether they go on to seek help, whether they go like they head on an upward trajectory for their life, or whether they internalize it and literally have it kill them from the inside out.
I've done so many interviews on the Dear Future Wifey podcast, and you'll be amazed by how many women, but I know you wouldn't be, how many women that have sat down and, I mean, it's such a high percentage. They say 1 in 5, and then they say 1 in 3. What is the new statistic about those that have experienced sexual assault?
I mean, I can speak to that. 1 in 5 is the national average for how many people experience sexual assault. 1 in 3 is Utah. That's the average in Utah. 1 in 3 women. I couldn't tell you state by state, but I know the national average, and I know that the average in Utah.
1 in 3 in Utah.
Yeah.
And so what I plan on doing, and after having so many conversations with a lot of single women or those that are married, what I decided to do in the month of April, since it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, is to create a free program for men on how to handle and navigate the hearts of women, knowing those statistics, because 9 times out of 10, you may be dating a woman that has been a victim of sexual assault, and we don't have the reference or the tools on how to deal with them, how to ask for consent from even a touch or a kiss or even any type of sexual advances. A lot of times men feel like, or I even speak personally when I was growing up or whatnot, that you feel like a woman is playing hard to get, and so you have a tendency to try a little bit harder or whatnot, and then she'll give in. And so you'll be like, oh, okay, that's just how women do. It's that cat and mouse game. But to give real reference and teaching and instruction on how to navigate that space from a healthy standpoint so you're not re-traumatizing the victim. What do you think about that, on giving men resources on how to handle women that may be victims of sexual assault?
I think that's amazing. I think that's very needed. I think we all need to be a little bit more trauma informed and a little bit more compassionate, and recognize that what you're seeing at face value is not always the full story. That being said, I also think it's really important just to acknowledge that abuse against boys and men are on the rise, and that I think we need to change society and culture to make it a safe place for men and boys to say, this happened to me, that I'm a survivor as well, and not have like the shame or embarrassment connected to that either.
100%, 100%. As I get ready to wrap up, you're clearly doing the work and making a difference in our world. In fact, today we are at the Top Golf in Las Vegas for the Tim and Sharice Brown Celebrity Golf Invitational, where the Elizabeth Smart Foundation and the Maloo Foundation are being honored. You are also the beneficiaries of all the funds raised during this event. What does it mean to you to be seen for your work and receive such awesome contribution?
It's surreal. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's so humbling but inspiring at the same time, because here we are at maybe the biggest weekend of the year and the #1 event for human trafficking, and yet here we have Tim and Sharice Brown, just salt of the earth, amazing individual, and so both of them just incredible. I'm a little bit lost for words, but I think it just goes to show that for as bad as things are, there is still so much good, and there are more people in this world who care, who don't necessarily need to care, but who still care and want to make a difference. And I think that says everything.
Well, I'm not going to let some of these words you keep dropping, because these words you keep saying is identifying that you my sister in Christ. You know, you start talking about salt of the earth and all that stuff. I said, okay, that's my sister in Christ, and all the stuff that you said earlier. And so it's an honor to be a part of your family. And one thing I want to say is, how can my followers, I have a YouTube following of almost 500,000 subscribers, and what can we do to help serve the Elizabeth Smart Foundation? How can we connect with you online, and what can we do?
Go to iamonwatch.org and take the training. It is helping you. It's a video. It's maybe about an hour long. It's small videos, and it talks about what human trafficking is and how to recognize the signs and what to do. Get educated, and don't let this conversation die. I mean, it does happen all around us all the time. And if everyone was as vigilant as people were when they were looking for me, but they had that level of vigilance in their everyday life, I mean, how many more survivors would we have? How would we see the statistics change? What kind of world would we be living in now?
How many years have you been married?
12.
12 years. Was that hard? Was that hard to transition to that?
No, getting married, I mean, it was wonderful, because when I was kidnapped, I felt like that dream had been taken away from me. I felt like that was something that would never happen for me. And so when I was rescued, and later when I met my husband, it felt like that dream was given back.
You felt like that dream was given back. What did he do to help cultivate you and protect your heart and nurture you to this place of healing?
I mean, he's always respected me, but he also always just loved me for me, not for Elizabeth Smart. He just loved me for Elizabeth. And he's just been my #1 defender. And also if he feels like I need some humbling, he also helps in that area as well.
What's his name?
Matthew.
Salute, King. I'm proud of you for cultivating this queen and protecting her heart and being a source of healing for you and giving you that dream back. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for taking time with me on the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Listen, I support you. Anything that I can do to help your cause. And I'm going to be calling on you to help with this course that I'm doing for men in April. Can I count on you for that?
You can count on me.
Good, because I want to help give some reference to men so that we can do a better job on helping to protect our women. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Y'all give it up for my homie, Elizabeth Smart, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Man, that was powerful. That was absolutely powerful. Next, we're going to have my buddy, Dr. Sid O'Brien. He's about to come up. This is my boy. What's up, man?
How you doing, man?
Yes, sir. one of the most buffest doctors I know. He's swole. Now, Dr. Sid O'Brien is known as the Brain Care Doc. He is a clinical psychologist and executive director of the Institute of Translational Research at the University of North Texas Health and Science Center at Fort Worth. He is also the lead investigator for the Health and Aging Brain Study, a study that I took part in, and y'all gonna see the video of my experience with that study, which is a $12 million study funded by the National Institute of Aging. Through his work, Dr. O'Brien focuses on health disparities among people of color and has helped to secure $250 million in Alzheimer's research from the National Institute of Aging over the last 10 years. What's up, man?
Happy to be here. It's
Man,
good to see you.
listen, this is my boy, so we just gonna chop
We
it
have
up.
fun.
Yeah, we gonna talk. We gonna chop it up. Now, your work sits at the intersection of groundbreaking brain science, health disparities, Alzheimer's disease, and transformative research. What was the catalyst that inspired you to become passionate about this work?
Well, I got into it originally. My mama Cood. Mama Cood, she got diagnosed with this just devastating disease. And, as the grandbaby, it still affects me. I couldn't deal with that. And she deserved more. And all of my patients that I've had in the families, I think we can do better. And at that point, and then growing up in South Louisiana, I felt, all right, it's time to fix this. It's time to do something about it.
What do you think when you talk about, this is a week where they talk about sex trafficking is at an all-time high during Super Bowl week. And when you talk about victims of sexual assault and all types of trauma, what is the link between that? And I know it's still research that's still been discovered, but what is the link between that and Alzheimer's?
Well, and that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that, those traumas and associated oftentimes post-traumatic stress disorder and depression and anxiety, all of these things increase our risk for brain aging, things like Alzheimer's and dementias. And so these things aren't just about the experiences now. It's about, all right, wait, we got to get in there. We got to do things to help these victims because there's also long-term consequences, even at the brain level.
Yes.
It's not, some people think, well, it's a trauma, it's in your head. No, this is something you dealt with, you experienced, and there's also a biology to it. And it's just, there's real awareness that needs to be had.
Dr. O'Brien, now your motto is understanding your brain your way. Now, why is that important? And what are some tips and how can we understand our brains a little bit better?
Right. No two brains are the same.
Right.
Right. We all walk different paths. We're all born in different places. We eat different foods. And I believe that the way we're going to truly transform how brain aging, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all of these things are dealt with is by understanding your path.
Yes.
So that we can say, okay, you have had uncontrolled diabetes, right? And now all of a sudden things are changing in your brain. Let's get that diabetes under control because that may be your risk.
Right.
Right. And someone else may have the same thing, but that's not their risk.
Right.
And so, it's also like people say, all right, physical activity is going to reduce risk. I work out 7 days a week. I can't work out more. And so I need other things, right? Maybe I need sleep.
Yeah.
And so you have to take that person into context.
That's good. That's good. What are some of the startling statistics that you're seeing around the work that you do?
So, in communities of color, the risk for Alzheimer's and dementias, so twice the risk among the Black community, 1.5 times the risk among the Hispanic community. Yet, 95% of people enrolled in studies in Alzheimer's have been non-Hispanic white. And almost 5% or less enrolled in clinical trials have been from diverse communities and communities of color. We can't understand the disease if we don't understand how it presents in our community. And so, there are so many things we can and should do. And that's one of the things that I'm blessed to be able to do is work with communities that have historically been underrepresented. And it's just an honor to do stuff.
And what I love about you is that you're pure in your intentions. And I shared this when we talked. I said, a lot of African Americans, we don't have a lot of trust with studies and stuff. They felt, back in the day, they used to do studies on us in the worst ways.
Absolutely.
And so sitting down, talking to you, hearing your heart, knowing that you're a brother from Louisiana, from that bayou,
right?
Coming from humbling beginnings, I really got a chance to hear your heart, and I really got a chance to hear your pure intentions. And so in front of the world, I just want to tell you that I honor you for that.
Thank
I
you.
admire you for being a man that is so intentional and has pure intentions, so much to the point, y'all, that he don't even like seeing his face all on these billboards and pop-up banners and all that. He like, he just cringes. He don't even like to see his own name.
No.
on apparel or whatnot. He's like, why is my name on all this stuff? But it just speaks to how you don't want the spotlight on you. No. You want the spotlight on the disease.
That's right. And it's about helping. It's about helping the communities. And, some of my colleagues get upset when I say, health inequities and health disparities, disproportionate access to resources, that is a cause from the medical and scientific community. We're responsible for this. And so it's our duty. It's what we're supposed to do, is get in the community and help. I mean, and that's been my only goal in life, is I just want to help. I want to help the community. I want to help patients. I don't want families to go through what I went through. And I view this as a personal failure when we are not getting in there and doing better than we are. And I refuse to continue failing my communities.
Well, you're doing a great job on helping to thwart those statistics. But today we are at the Topgolf in Las Vegas for the inaugural Tim and Sharice Brown Celebrity Golf Invitation. I'm curious about two things. First, regarding today's beneficiaries, the Elizabeth Smart Foundation and the Maloo Foundation, and their work in dealing with sexual assault and traumas. I'm curious to know, can trauma play a part in developing Alzheimer's? You talked about how it can. Mm-hmm. Have you done extensive research to see how that weighs into Alzheimer's?
And so some recent work we've been doing, even in our own study, looking at stress, right? Chronic stress, depression. These things aren't just about you feeling an emotion. There's also a biological consequence. And we now have seen that even brain changes in individuals vary by communities that experience more stress and more trauma, because, so there's been research in the past saying, well, these stress and chronic stress may not really be related to Alzheimer's. Well, that's because studies of communities that don't suffer disproportionate burden of stress
are the ones taking the study.
Exactly. And so that's some of the exciting things we're seeing now. Now, one of the things that's really cool that one of the junior scientists that we work with, what she's recently shown is that chronic stress is also, though, buffered by resources. And so if you live in chronic stress, you've got that family support.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden, wait a minute, you do better,
yes.
Which gives me so much hope, because it means, hey, we can get in there and help. We can do something about that, right?
Yes. All right, now my second question is, since this is an NFL event and the risk of multiple concussions coupled with the possible brain traumas and aging, have you seen how physical impact from sports can play a part in developing this disease?
Absolutely. I mean, and there's research showing that head injuries can increase risk for, CTE, Alzheimer's, and other things. And, the thing that I want to say, especially to those athletes and those young men and women who are athletes, is, what we need to do is figure out how to understand your risk. Right? I don't believe in taking away from the community. You've got people who will say, well, you shouldn't do this. Well, let's just get rid of football. Seriously? How about we try and do the science to say, okay, now here's your risk. Let me figure out how to help you play in a manner that reduces your risk.
That's good.
Right? And so, yes, we have to protect our brains. We have to try and do what we can to protect our brains. And at the same time, as a scientist, and as a healthcare provider, I view it as our responsibility to say, okay, how can we do the science to actually help you do what you love in a better way?
Good. Hi, Dr. Sid O'Brien. I can talk to you all day, like chopping up with my friend, but how can people connect with you? Matter of fact, I can tell you straight up. One way is make sure you go to his Instagram and follow Dr. Sid O'Brien. S-I-D, well, Dr. D-R, S-I-D-O-B-R-Y-A-N-T, Dr. Sid O'Brien. What's another way they can connect with you?
Can also connect through the Institute for Translational Research. You can find me there. You can go to the web page. There's even places you can click and sign up for the study and you leave your name. And, follow me on social media, and I'm happy to come give talks and spread awareness and try to help.
Good. So you'll show up at organizations, give talks, they book, whatever it is.
I'd love to.
Yeah, so listen, go ahead and book them to show up. Is it expensive fee to get to Dr. Sid?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, he said not at all. I don't know what he called expensive because, Dr. Sid paid. But anyway, listen, book him to come show up and speak at your event to bring awareness. He actually loves what he does.
I do.
And it's written all over his face every time I talk to him. And so listen, thank you for stopping by on the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I did the study and it's amazing. Still waiting on my results. But it was an amazing experience. It taught me to be very, very, like you said, it's my brain.
Right.
And so I need to know my brain.
Right.
And so I appreciate you for doing the groundwork for this research to help me learn my brain, which in turn is helping me understand me.
Right.
That's the secret battleground is our brain.
Yep.
And so we got to make sure we protect that.
Absolutely.
Dr. Sid O'Brien, thank you so much for sitting and talking to me on the Dear Future Wifey podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Hey, y'all give it up for my boy, Dr. Sid O'Brien, y'all.
Thanks for having me.
Now, listen, we've been having amazing talk here live in Las Vegas during the Super Bowl weekend. And thank y'all for tuning in. Listen, I understand we had some little minor technical difficulties, but we made it, y'all. And so thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for watching. And make sure that you subscribe to Dear Future Wifey Podcast. Go ahead and like this video. And we'll be in touch. God bless y'all. And don't stop loving.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. Remember, be lit. Live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.